Hi, my name is Belarie Zatzman, and I'm really pleased to be here to participate in this online CATR digital pivot and to be participating in this applied theater panel. I want to thank Yasmin Kandil for organizing it for us. In my work, I draw on applied theater as a research paradigm to explore the Holocaust. Today I want to focus on a project I've entitled Triangulation, an aesthetic form of representation with which to explore the contemporary resonances of the Holocaust. This project was originally intended to respond to this year's 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz from a specifically Canadian context. For example, from the gathering of reflections from survivors who immigrated to Canada to critically reflecting on Canada's immigration policy of none is too many during World War II, which is Troper and Abella's work, and to the continuing and contemporary issues of Canada's response to refugee crises, including the, for example, Syrian refugee crisis, which is ongoing. Triangulation was to have been produced last month for Liberation 75, the largest international conference in the world commemorating the liberation from Auschwitz. The conference was canceled, of course. We are living in the wake of this COVID-19 moment, as we all know. I begin with the materiality of triangles. The Nazi classification system served as the initial touchstone for developing this work. Triangles that marked Jews and Roma Sinti peoples for murder and targeted homosexuals, political and religious prisoners. I am also guided by Libeskind's new Holocaust Monument in Ottawa, which was opened in 2017, entitled Landscape of Loss, Memory, and Survival, which uses the form of a deconstructed Star of David, elongated triangles, to create the very shape of the Canadian monument. I've written a piece that focuses specifically on this memorial site for Yasmin Kandil and Barry Freeman's recently published special issue of CTR, an issue on applied theater. I've conceptualized triangulation as a threefold applied theater framework for responding to the Shoah, which in Hebrew means destruction, or poraimos, which means devouring. This is the term used by the Roma Sinti people. Triangulation was originally designed to offer a participatory practice through which to explore how applied theater processes might invite interaction with our new National Holocaust Monument in Ottawa. One of the questions that guides my work is, how might applied theater help shape our encounter with history as a performative and pedagogical practice? In order to animate this new Canadian monument through relational acts of critical engagement, and here I'm thinking of Julie Salverson's work, I hope that triangulation will offer a foundation from which participants can explore and create their own responses to the Shoah. I am committed to exploring how diverse publics may be positioned and represented, not just as receivers of historical content, but as co-creators. This is the promise and the challenge and the risk of applied theater. It offers us the possibility of interacting with history beyond passively consuming historiographic narratives. And here I'm thinking of Magelssen's work and Jackson and Kidd, for example. Thus, triangulation is an applied theater project designed to prompt interaction and remembrance. This applied theater project is constructed from multiple layers of contributions from diverse participants. Indeed, the metaphor of the triangle also serves as a structuring device for the project. And so there are three components of triangulation, and these include 1. 75 excerpts from the Azraeli Foundation's excellent Canadian Holocaust Survivor Memoirs collection. They have a wonderful collection, so that Canadian survivor narratives are woven directly into the project. The second layer involves 75 excerpts from contemporary poetry, literature, scripts, creative nonfiction, and/or histories that respond to the Holocaust, both fictional and real representations, to make visible a range of narratives, because both the fictional and the real are forms central to applied theater practices. These texts are to be selected by 75 Canadian artists, educators, activists, public intellectuals, for example. They are invited to contribute an excerpt from one source that has made a powerful impression on their understanding of the Holocaust, specifically, or genocide broadly. I'm also asking them to write a short piece explaining why they have selected their particular contribution. In the scaffolded applied theater project, following Geertz and Shalev's public authorship processes, the 75 sources will then be made available to the public, who in turn will be prompted to select one of the curated excerpts to narrate based upon its potential to illuminate their own understanding of and relationship to the Holocaust. Finally, in the third stage of the project, given my aesthetic and pedagogical commitment to narrative inquiry in applied theater, retelling and critically examining and positioning our stories as research, participants are invited to write about their relationship to the Holocaust, whatever it may be, from their own particular contexts. Seated at a triangular table, which I've designed for the installation space, they can compose an entry witnessing and responding to the Holocaust, to remember the past in relation and to be willing to allow such remembrances to affect our present and future, or as Roger Simon suggested, learning from rather than learning about. And in this sense, he describes learning from as involving learning to take the experiences, the memories, and the stories of the other into our own lives and to live and act as though they mattered. Through its multiple forms of mediation, cultural, political, artistic, and technical, this applied theater publicly engaged research creation work then invites participants to audio record their selected excerpts in triangulation's on-site sound booth. Participants may choose to narrate a text drawn from one or all three areas that constitutes the project's triple structure. When publics enter the installation space, they will encounter the audio sound of different voices, transgenerational, transnational, transcultural, narrating the texts. These will serve as a dynamic participatory contribution to and co-construction of triangulation. Further, fragments of the narrated texts will be translated into visual form and projected onto the surfaces of triangulation's exhibition space. This is part of both its aesthetic and accessibility design. And I'm working with a wonderful group of colleagues and artists at York to create this design. Triangulation offers what I hope is a compelling addition to cultural and educational applied theater research through the co-creation of contemporary memorial practices responding to the Holocaust as an active form of witnessing. In the selection and performance of these diverse texts and forms of mediation, I hope that triangulation will address memory as a generative and multidirectional process in which the performative and fluid dimensions of memory are highlighted as acts of construction in the present. I want to finish by sharing with you one piece that has been submitted as a contribution to triangulation. This is a piece of poetry by Donia Blumenfeld-Klenman, a Holocaust survivor who immigrated to Canada. Her poem is called I Dream in Good English Too. It embodies experiences of living between the tension and the promise of life as a survivor in Canada. Donia Blumenfeld-Klenman's I Dream in Good English Too. Sometimes I am a stranger to my family, for I bring Europe's ghosts into the well-lit living room of Canadian internationalism and mobile, passionately objective youth. My scars are nicely healed, and my concerns properly intellectual, yellow with the stamp of legality of naturalization papers 20 years old. Yet somehow, the smoke of the past darkens Heinz's clear consommé, and though only a witness, I spread fear by my very presence, a living fossil at a table worshipping the now. They love me deeply and tenderly, yet would exercise a part of me, dreading an eruption of memory, no matter how oblique, to force them into captive partnership. This is my past, not theirs, their hostile glances shout. We are all descendants of Adam. Why bring Abraham into happy Canadian homes? I was no child on arrival, and yet so well assimilated that even my verses are native, and I dream in good English too. So I put on the ointment of reason and tape heartbreak with band-aids, and they are relieved and reassured to get back their normal Canadian mother.